Hello and welcome to this month's Q&A, which I'm doing because I've been working with My First Savse, who are making cold pressed vegetable and fruit pouches for baby food and young children's food, and it just made me start thinking about the fact that I've never really done one focused on this subject. So that's what I thought we'd talk about today. So I've had lots of comments about from Miss Amy Phillips going, oh wow, I need this, where do they sell? And Kaza Baza 1, where can we purchase? So they did, My First Savse did come back and answer you by saying Harrods, Ocado, Planet Organic, as nature intended. And I think perhaps Amazon as well. But they're in the thing to remember about them actually is because they are cold pressed, they're in the fresh aisle rather than in the pre-packed sections. So that's another thing that makes them kind of different because they're fresh. Okay, so and then Eat Tea Roo says keep up the good work, so inspirational. I think they might be talking about me, but you never know, they might be talking about My First Savse too. Okay, so then I've got a few questions as well. So one is from May 10. What are the benefits of cold pressed baby food? Well, the benefit of cold pressing anything is that it's not heated. So the reason that you cold press is you squish it like that rather than anything else, and it basically extracts the pulp and the goodness and the juice and everything from the vegetable and fruit without ruining any of the nutrients by heating up, basically, is the best way of describing it. So it keeps the nutrients intact better than any other way of extracting the pulp and juice from it. So that's the best way of doing it. And so that's the main thing. Yeah, that's it basically. Also, there is the idea of pasteurization, which is slightly different. And these baby foods actually are done with high pressure, which kills off the bacteria. But also, cold pressing kills off a lot of the bacteria and pathogens that are in food anyway. Okay, and then I've got another one from Miss Marianne _. Hi, I'm a vegetarian and want my baby to be vegetarian. Will they get enough of the right nutrients? Okay, so I actually talked to a few people about this. Well, I talk often about this because I was speaking to a pregnant mum the other day who wants her baby to be vegan, who is a vegan and wants her child to be vegan. The only thing that vegetarian or vegan versus a meat eater has in difference is protein, really. That's what we're talking about. So it's about making sure that you're getting enough vegetable protein into your diet. And that doesn't mean for a vegetarian you can eat cheese. That doesn't mean coming from cheese. It means you need to eat things like nuts and seeds and pulses and legumes. So lentils, any chickpeas, black-eyed peas, black beans. There are so many beans and stuff out there. There's such a huge variety. So you can pulp them, you can puree them, but that's a way to, but also nuts and seeds. Now, everybody's very cautious about nuts and seeds because obviously there's a lot of allergy, information out there at the moment. There's also a lot of information to suggest that if children are exposed to nuts and seeds early, they're less likely to have problems with them when they're older. But obviously go gently. And my suggestion would be to just use seeds, but obviously you can choke on seeds, so don't give them a whole seed. Puree everything, obviously. But that would be, I think you'd introduce seeds further down the line. That's what I would say. I would absolutely, the thing to do is to make sure that they're getting the right nutrition, protein and vegetable protein. So, and those would be the sources I'd use as a vegetarian and a vegan. I mean, cheese is fine, but it's not got very, very much fibre. It's got very high saturated fat. It tastes really good though. Okay, so now for Amy Law Lewis _. She asked, what is the best foods to use when you start giving your baby solids? Well, the best foods, in my opinion, you start with one flavour at a time. So, pureed carrot, and then pureed swede, and then pureed sweet potato. You start one at a time. I would be careful not to give your baby, I mean, lots of people think it's nice to give your baby fresh fruit. It is really nice to give your baby fresh fruit, pureed fresh fruit, but do bear in mind that their palate is totally, it's never tasted anything. So it doesn't need to taste sugar. It doesn't know that sweet things are nice, or, it hasn't been programmed like that yet. So try and program the other way a little bit by using the majority of vegetables, and then, sweeten things with a little bit of apple or a little bit of fruit. But I think being very vegetable led at a very early age is a really good way to try to help the palate adapt to that sort of thing, you know, because you really want to be careful with sugars and, you know, things like that. Even though fruits do have loads of great stuff in them, try to make sure you balance it with quite a heavy veg input, is what I would say. And where, yeah, that's, and when, and you asked when to start. I think when to start, I think that has to depend on the baby, and I kind of think baby-led is a good way of thinking about it. You know, when your baby starts to seem more hungry, then perhaps start introducing solids. But that is definitely something that goes on a baby-by-baby basis. And so, yeah, so I would just see how you get on with, see when they're starving, and then start adding a little bit in here and there. Okay, and then the last question is Anton Breck. My only concern is that fruit juice is very acidic. Is this the case with cold pressed? Well, fruit juice is, especially if it has lemons and orange juice, is very acidic because it has citric acid in it. I would never suggest giving a baby simple juice. I would always make sure that it's with the whole food, so it's pulped, pureed, smoothied, or never mind, you know, but pureed food basically. And again, I would make sure that you're mixing you're giving a very vegetable-led diet with adding fruit in, because there's goodness in all of it. But I wouldn't ever give a juice to a baby because it's too, the sugar. You need the fibre in the pulp and the puree to slow down the absorption of sugar. And so if you give them a juice, it will just hit the body too fast, and you don't want to be starting that sugar unbalance. That's, you know, we have to deal with that when we're older and doing all sorts of stupid things. So when you're a baby, make sure you're giving the whole food. You know, whether if you're cooking it yourself or you're buying a pouch of food, make sure it's the whole pureed food. And then the acidity, it shouldn't be an issue. You know, as long as you're mixing it with some nice grounding root vegetables or some greens. So I hope that helps. Any follow-ups, you know, get in touch on Instagram, and yeah, have a really nice day. I hope your babies are very well.